Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today's phrase is to be worlds apart. Worlds apart. And that basically means that you are very different from other people's opinions or ideas, to be worlds apart. Let me give you some examples. So, your best friend is getting married, and you can say, I really don't know why those two are getting married. They seem to be worlds apart on many different issues. To be worlds apart. That's one thing. Another example might be I have two children and they're both worlds apart. They're completely different from each other, to be worlds apart. So those are two examples of how you could use it. You could describe your old boss and your new boss as being worlds apart in terms of how they want to move the company forward, to be worlds apart. And there we are. Right, so one headline, which is in our newspapers today, is all about the royals. Now, this story is from our Daily Mirror. The headline says, Worlds Apart. And it's talking about how Prince Charles and Prince Harry are very, very different people. And it's saying here that just a few days ago, they were both less than 2 miles apart in central London, and yet none of them, or I should say neither of them, because there's only two, wanted to see each other. It says here, Prince Harry and his father, the king, were just 2 miles apart yesterday, but still did not meet. The Duke was at an Invictus Games event in St. Paul's Cathedral, while Charles hosted a palace garden party. They last met in February. The king was said to be too busy to see Harry. Well, who knows what the true story is there, but we're going to read through the rest of the story so you can hear it. So it says, Prince Harry yesterday came closer to his father the king than he has in months, but the reunion royal fans have been hoping for never materialized. I'm not sure anybody cares enough to wonder if they'll have a reunion or not. It says, the Duke was briefly in London to mark the 10th anniversary of his Invictus Games at St. Paul's Cathedral, as Charles hosted a Buckingham Palace garden party just 2 miles away. But the king was said to be too busy to see his son, confirming a statement earlier this week that revealed the pair would not meet because the monarch had a busy program of official events. The Duke, 39, did not meet with 41-year-old brother Prince William either. Oh, he's 41 now, is he? Oh my, we're all getting older, aren't we? And then it says here, Harry last saw the king in February when he dashed from the US after King Charles's cancer diagnosis. Yeah, if you dash to do something, it means you rush to do it. He arrived in the UK on Tuesday and is flying to Nigeria today to meet up with wife Megan, 42. She's 42, is she? Oh. And it says, for a tour linked to the Invictus Games for injured and sick military personnel. Yeah, I mean, I don't see that as being a particularly bad thing. I mean, I have to say that families here are very different. We have very different family values. Some families are close, some aren't, and there's many different reasons for that. Obviously, we are raised in a very open society. We tend to avoid tribalism, although it does exist in rural areas. People who come from large families usually have all their emotional needs met within a family. Smaller families tend to just do their own thing. And to be honest with you, um, I'm not very family orientated, and I'm very happy not knowing where my cousins or whoever are. So I can understand exactly uh, what the the dynamics are of family relationships. And we mustn't forget as well that royals are running a business, and there's not a lot of room in that for sentiment. They're not like other people. So yeah, very different, a very different point of view. But I know my view of family is perhaps worlds apart from other people, but I don't have a lot of time for families. I know that we often have a proverb here in the UK. We say, if you're on a sinking ship, who would you save? Two friends or one family member? And my response is always the same. Well, of course, the friends. Why would I save a family member? Um, so yes, it's a very different way of seeing the world, and I think British people know we do have some understanding that we're very different from other people with regards to family. But I think it's all part of the capitalist way, isn't it? When you have to make money to survive, and if money defines you as being successful, then of course you are going to be worlds apart from other people. So yeah, the British view is indeed worlds apart from perhaps other countries. Yeah, so that's the news from today, to be worlds apart. Another thing which can be described as worlds apart from something else is Eurovision. We have the Eurovision Song Contest going on at the moment, and for those of you who don't know what Eurovision is, it's a song contest which takes place involving countries across Europe and beyond, uh, and competitions take place to vote for the best musical acts which will represent their countries at the final event this coming Saturday. And those songs are all worlds apart from each other. The songs have absolutely nothing in common with each other because they're all voted in by the public. So let me just clarify that a little bit. So it's a competition, a song competition, where each country across Europe votes for a particular song, and the voting process is unique for each country. And those who are voted in successfully compete on Saturday evening in a live televised event all across Europe, this year in Sweden. And these songs, because they're all voted in by the public, are all very, very different from each other. These songs are indeed worlds apart. And the Eurovision Song Contest is one of the longest running musical competitions in the world. It's been running since, I think, since the 50s or 60s. So it's a very, very old event, and some people take it very, very seriously. And of course, no one likes Britain, so we usually come last in the song contest. Nobody votes for us. Uh, in fairness, our songs usually are awful, but I think it's very political with tactical voting, you know. Ireland votes for Britain, Britain votes for Ireland. Um each country votes for the country that they have political relationships with or have something in common with, or just because the companies are neighboring each other. So it's very funny, but it's also incredibly kitsch. I mean, the quality of music that comes from it is absolutely awful. So we have Eurovision today and continuing until the final. Another news story which is being carried by The Independent today is saying that young British people are worlds apart from their counterparts in other countries. The story is saying that if you're aged between 18 and 34, you would never dare answer the telephone. And it says here, once upon a time, the sound of your phone ringing would bring about excitement. But these days, people usually ignore it. In a recent survey, 70% of people within that age group, up to age 34, said they wouldn't dare answer the telephone. They would prefer a text. And 37% said they would wait for a voice message. Someone here is saying people my age now are simply terrified of the phone. We might as well call it something else entirely because we're just not comfortable with it. And this person goes on to say, I texted a friend last week to say, can I call you? Because it would be rude to simply call someone without checking with them first. And then the person says, this is the most terrifying message you could ever send, because no one wants to talk to each other. The news article goes on to say that the person replied after this text, can I call you? They replied saying, no, it's just too daunting. We don't we don't want to talk to each other. Thank you very much, because I don't like using the telephone. So they went and used WhatsApp messages and voice notes instead. And then the person says here, I was feeling lonely and could actually have spoken to the person. I would have liked to chat, but the anxiety of talking on the phone was just too much. And another person here is saying that for this generation, it's quite normal now that you don't call anybody. A phone call is only for something which is expected and requires immediate attention. It would be like going to someone's door and knocking on it unannounced. It's just not respectful of their personal space or time. That's really sad, I think. I mean, I must admit, my phone is on constant divert. I don't take calls from anyone, but I do sometimes like to receive WhatsApp calls, but I am aware that nobody ever uses phone calls without sending messages fast. But cellular calls, calls directly to my phone, oh no, it's always on divert. And the reason for that is because the calls I get are usually scam, or from people that I just don't want to talk to. So at least on WhatsApp, I know there's a possibility it's going to be someone from another country, which I would prefer. Talking to British people, in my opinion at least, is dull, boring, and well, I'm sure you can imagine what I think about that. But anyway, that's the latest. So the saying here that our young people are worlds apart from other people in other countries across the world. So very interesting, very interesting. It does raise one question though, and that is how do British people actually form cohesive relationships? You know, when I was young, well, you were forced to talk to people. If you wanted to, you know, have a job, you had no choice except to sit in a language school or an office with other people. And I admit that was hard because, you know, if it's people that you don't like, but you had no choice. You had to get on with it, no matter how much you hated people. But now it seems that you don't actually have to see people at all. And I find that quite worrying, especially for mental health. I mean, I work at home. Of course, I live with my family, but I'm not sure uh, what that would be like if I lived alone, working alone, being at home alone, me and my little cat. I don't know how that would be. I think I'd need to force myself into the company of other people, especially if nobody wants to answer their telephone anymore. It seems a little bit odd, doesn't it? But well, I suppose everyone's different. But a life without talking to people, it sounds very odd, doesn't it? But that's the way young people are. Well, anyway, that's it from me today. So, worlds apart was the phrase of today, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk soon. See you. Bye.